just a reminder to make sure that you've got this CGP book, and I would certainly suggest that you have your word and meaning book as well. This book is so important to record any new words down that you don't know, and I'm sure during this particular homework review video there will be words that we need to learn. So can I ask you now to pause the video, make sure you've got the books ready, and then we're going to head off to the first page. So the first page we're going to look at is page 23. Page 23. Okay, so hopefully you are on that page and you're ready to go down through and double check you've got the right answers. So, the ruined castle was 7 miles from his house. Now, we're looking for the word that's in bold and we need to replace it with one of the words on the right-hand side. Only one of them is going to be a synonym, so a word that means the same. In the example here, we've got the river was broad. We could say the river was wide. So I think the best way of checking is to make sure that once you place the word back into the sentence, obviously it should make sense. So the ruined castle was 7 miles from the house. Well, we could say the derelict castle. So that would still mean the same. So derelict meaning damaged or neglected. Ben was apprehensive about performing in the concert. So if Ben was apprehensive, he was a bit nervous, he was anxious about performing in the concert. Polly comforted her friend after he lost the tournament, and the word is consoled. So if you console someone, you comfort them, you make them feel better. The boy was scolded for eating the whole cake, so blamed. So scolded and blamed both mean to be told off. Hero's grandfather was as amusing as ever. So entertaining and amusing mean the same. And then we've got the motor would no longer rotate. So another word for rotating is revolving. So they both mean to turn in circles. Rabina felt intimidated by the exam, daunted, so really frightened or nervous. And then number 8, they made the hazardous journey over the mountain. So we're looking for a word that means hazardous and unsafe, and that is dangerous. So they made the dangerous journey over the mountain. Rebecca was chased by a big black dog, and the word that means the same as chased, a synonym for chased, is pursued. So hopefully you did well there. If there were any of those words you didn't know, and you didn't know what they meant, obviously we can put them into context quite easily, can't we, in these sentences, but do write them down for me. Now you've got to think of the opposite. So it's now flipping your mind to think not of synonyms, but of opposite in meaning. So let's go down through these. Nigel loathed spaghetti because it looked like worms. Now we're looking at the opposite. So if he relished, it means he enjoyed. So if he enjoys them, it's the opposite to loathing, because of course loathing means to hate. The film's end was quite bewildering. Bewildering means confusing. So clear would be the opposite there. 12, the river continued its sluggish journey to the sea. So sluggish being slow, rapid being quick. Jennifer was aware of the hysteria in the air. So aware and ignorant. So ignorant is really not knowing. So ignorant, not knowing, may know the word ignorance. And then that is the opposite of aware. 14, the explorer's companions hindered her progress. So hindered means impede or prevent or kind of stop her progress, but the opposite to that would be helped. You may have a word like assist to mean help. Metab's new haircut made her feel confident, and then we've got unsure. So with unsure would be the opposite of being confident, uncertain. Jean-Marc was appalled by the state of his flat. So appalled meaning disgusted or horrified, whereas if you're impressed, you're really pleased. So that's the opposite there. The goats were sheltered on the cliff face, precarious, endangered and exposed. Exposed means kind of open and unprotected, so the opposite of sheltered. Her welcoming speech seemed genuine, so genuine being authentic, being real, whereas insincere kind of means false. Didn't know what insincere meant, you can put false into your word and meaning book. So hopefully you did well on that particular section. You hopefully got 9 out of 9. And let's move on to what we need to do next. Now, it's certainly worth, with this particular part, reading this bit through. So reading this whole passage through, because after you've read it through, you've got a series of questions that come next. And this is called spotting and understanding devices. And when we talk about devices, we're talking about literacy devices. And we did talk about these in our last lesson. Hence why you're doing it now for your homework. But we talked about onomatopoeias and alliterations and things like that. So let's see what you got. So what you need to do is, these have all come from the different places in that previous passage, and it is certainly worth looking at your line numbers here to guide you. So if you're not quite sure, go back and read it in the context of the passage. That might help you. But we're looking for the technique which was used. So in the first one, we've got an alliteration, because we've got dreary, drops, drizzled down, so they all start with the same d sound, the d sound. Then we've got 2 is Tom splashed through the puddles, and that's on line 1. So let's see, where does it say that? Tom splash, there we go. So if you do want to go back to the text, you can easily refer back to it. And that is an onomatopoeia. It's a word that creates a sound. So it's like the noise of the water makes when it moves. His smile was the only sunlight. So this is a metaphor. This is a metaphor because it's describing his smile as being sunlight. And then number 4 is a simile. You've got the word like. Remember, like or as tends to give that away, doesn't it? So she looked like a slender elf. So that's a simile. Now we need to write down an example from the text of the following things. So we've got to know what they are. We did quite a bit on abbreviations and acronyms during our lesson, didn't we? So sci-fi is obviously an abbreviation for science fiction. Sci-fi. Then we've got an example of personification here, and we've used a huge lorry screamed past. Well, it doesn't really scream past, does it? But it's certainly given it human characteristics. And then we've got dreary, meaning bleak. That's a synonym. Then we need an antonym of dry, which is drenched, which kind of means wet or soaked. Particularly if you get really wet, you say, oh, I'm drenched. Give you another couple of synonyms there, wet and soaked, but drenched was the example you should have found from the passage, and it must come from the text. That's really important. An antonym of broad, slender, so slender meaning thin, and then a synonym of rapidly is quickly. So guys, I hope you found most of those, and I hope certainly from the lesson, all those videos we watched on onomatopoeias and alliteration, do have a look at the BBC website, or BBC Bite Size, because if you can't remember the definition of all of those, if you've forgotten, for example, the difference between a simile or a metaphor, then go on to that website. Right, moving on. So we've got another passage here for you to read through. So hopefully you can read that through. And what does it say down the bottom? Read all 3 options before you decide which one to underline. Oh yeah, that's really important on the questions. But again, line references might be useful here as well. So let's have a little look at the answers. The author says that the soldier muttered, line 1. What impression does this give you of the soldier? Well, he's annoyed. So again, it is going back to the passage and looking at the context. So you have missed again, the soldier muttered. So he's obviously annoyed. The author compares the grappling hook to a rocket, line 9. What does this tell you about the grappling hook? Well, the fact that it moves quickly. So it's B. The hook clanged, line 9, against the wall. What effect does this word have on the reader? It helps you imagine the noise. So clanged is an onomatopoeia, isn't it? So that will help you work out the noise. The voice is described as a dagger, line 10. This shows you that the speaker is dangerous. Yeah, it certainly sounds like it, doesn't it, on line 10. So, like, who's there? The snarling voice was a dagger ripping through the silence of the night. Yeah, it sounds dangerous, doesn't it? The man says that he needs to climb over that 10-mile wall. Why does he say this? Well, you wouldn't have a 10-mile wall. That's silly, isn't it? It would never be that high. So he's exaggerating. He's not telling the truth. He's exaggerating the point. Why does the man say that overpowering the guards will be easy? He's being ironic. And ironic means, and we'll go and have a look at the glossary in a moment, we've got irony here, when a writer says the opposite of what they mean, or when the opposite happens to what the reader expects. So that's really what irony or being ironic means. So I think, why does the man say that overpowering the guards will be easy? I don't think he really means that. I think he's being ironic. So guys, hopefully you managed to mark those and you can give your score out of 6. Now the next part of your homework was actually to revise some of the key vocabulary. And what we've got is we've got a glossary here in the back of your book. And what I've done is I've just highlighted all of those key words for you. And I just really think it's a really good idea. And you can do this process that if you know them, highlight them. If you don't and you need to learn them, then please do. So what we've got here, we've got all the different definitions. And what I like about this glossary is it does give you a nice example as well. So I've got 2 pages, quite a few words there to make sure that you know, but please make sure you know the meanings of all of those different ones. And then after that, I've got a series of just little activities here, and perhaps you can work through these with me. I'm actually going to take off Billy, so we don't have him there. Now what I've got over this side is I've got the definition in the kind of heart here. We've got some rockers, and we've got to match them up. So some of you may have seen this activity before. So should we just do this together now and just make sure that we know what all of these words mean? So let's start with alliteration. So we know what alliteration is. It's when we hear the same sound. So let's see if we can find that definition. I'm just scanning through to see if I can find it. So we're looking for a words that give us the same. I can see it now. It's right in the top corner. The repetition of a sound at the beginning of the words within a phrase, e.g. Loopy Louie likes lipstick. So there we go. Abbreviation. Now we know what an abbreviation is when we shorten a version of a word. So let's see. So we've got a bike and a bicycle. So there we go. Then we've got an adjective, a describing word. So a word that describes a noun. So a beautiful morning, frosty lawn. Oh, that's a nice description, isn't it? Adverbs. So let's see if we've got an adverb definition here. Looking down. A word that describes a verb or an adjective, e.g. he ran quickly. So quickly being the adverb in that sentence. Antonym, let's go down here. So we're looking for an opposite word, a word that is opposite in meaning. So words that sound... here we go. A word has the opposite meaning to another, e.g. good and bad. Then let's have a look at fiction. So fiction is text which is made by the author about imaginary people and events. So the opposite of non-fiction, of course. Homophones, we know what homophones are. Those are words that sound the same but have 2 different spellings. So let's have a little look at an example. Here we are, down here. So words that sound the same but mean different things. Excellent stuff. But they have different spellings. Let's find conjunction. So a conjunction is a word that joins 2 clauses, so like and but. Very good. And then we've got comparative, a word that compares one thing with another. And then we've got homographs up there. So guys, I hope you were able to do those okay, and you were able to hopefully match those all up. So that was quite a few of the words, but we've got a couple more here. These are slightly different because we've got these in a sentence this time. So we've got something that needs to go with words that sound the same but mean different things, e.g. hair and hair. Well, of course, those are homophones. A phrase which doesn't literally mean what it says, e.g. raining cats and dogs. So it's an idiom. And then we've got language that creates a vivid picture in the reader's mind. So we've got imagery. Now, the last 2 tasks are more for you just to revise, and probably what we would suggest you do is before you flip the card, you think about what they mean. So you've got rhetorical question, superlative, verb, synonym, subordinate clause, a simile, a subject and a suffix. So maybe have a little look at that screen. Maybe you could even write them down on a bit of paper, and then once you feel you're happy and you've got a definition for each one, you can just turn it over and it will tell you what all of those words mean. And it gives you an example as well on most of them. So certainly worth just having a little look, read them off. These definitions just come from the glossary, but it's just a good way of you doing it. So I think certainly pausing the video, having a think about what all those words mean, and then flipping them over and then double checking them. And I've done exactly the same on here, so another good opportunity for you to pause the video because there was quite a few words that you had to focus on here. So we've got non-fiction, what's that? Text that is about facts and real people. You should know what a noun is, some examples there, Paul and scissors. Onomatopoeia, the sounds, prefix, letters that can be put in front of a word to change its meaning, so like un, going in front of lock. So proverb, is a short, well-known saying that may give advice, e.g. there's no point crying over spilt milk. Personification, human characteristics again. Then we've got prepositions, metaphors, irony, and pronoun. So guys, I hope you were able to do all of those. But again, what you might like to do, and if I just do this again now, if I just pause the video, then you can write them down, and then if I flip them over again, you can then just check them that you've got them right. So you pause the video now, write them down, write an example or definition, and then if I flick them over, you can then see what they all mean. So there's lots of different ways of doing it, but hopefully you've used the glossary, but that was just something a little bit different to show you.